So, communists. There are two in particular. Communists. I don't have much time for them, apart from present company accepted. I think they've ruined the trade union movement in Britain. Diverting energy away into political dead ends, and then receding from the actual class struggle, which is in the workplace. But anyway, regardless of that, I am thankful to some of them for the work they did with archaeology. So this discussion is coming out of a discussion I had with a viewer in the comments page. I'm not an archaeologist, but if I was, I would be a Marxist archaeologist. For the simple, and that's a school of archaeology, not of unending class struggle, but of the way that we interpret the past. There are lots of subjective, postmodern, post-structural methods of interpreting the past, and the vast majority of them are rubbish. Well, no, there are some good stuff, but it's it leads to misleading the public about what the past actually consisted of by making stuff up. The Marxist and functionalist way of looking at things requires evidence. It lays before you the evidence, but underneath it all is the entirely correct theory that everything in the world since the year dot has been about property and power, which it has. So even beautiful things come out of, including religion, ritual, and so on. Art and craft, all the rest of it has come out of the battle between classes, producing luxury goods for people who have a mass surplus value, all this sort of stuff. So it's a lot of the monuments, we're going to go and have a look at some of them along here, are related to ownership of the land. Whose land is it? Even in death, this place, I represent this place, this sort of thing. So it's they're probably in some sense property markers, barrows. There may not be other. I also follow the theory that you get prominent places and you place your best people in them, a bit like Westminster Abbey, famous poets, fighter pilot captains, all of this sort of stuff. They go into Westminster Abbey, and I also think that was happening. That's where power class, the state comes in. But there's a couple that are there's one in particular that's really important. He's called OGS Crawford, and he was in charge of archaeology at the Ordnance Survey map. So all of those squiggly lines and Gothic lettering that are really interesting on a British map, you'll see them every now and again. They'll point out a castle or a barrow or whatever, or a dike. That's thanks to him or his predecessors, but he developed it quite strongly. So where you see a Roman settlement and there's like a few squiggly lines that give the impression of what a villa looked like, that was him. He did that. he was a raging pinko. How he got the job, you know, nobody knows. But he was very important. He collected a huge amount of data. He's one of these people that went out into the landscape, hugely influential on people like me. And there was others like Grinsell. Grinsell was he wasn't a communist, but he was the same sort of character. He'd go out into the landscape with his bicycle, train, bicycle, and amass information about our barrows. And that gives us, you know, and some of these things have been ploughed out. I think the barrows down here have been ploughed out. I can't see anything from here. And you know, he's recorded that those guys have recorded that information. Grinsell was interesting, not for his, he wasn't a communist, but he was interesting because he was untrained until late in life, when he got his doctorate or whatever. He was just an amateur, and he amassed information on tens of thousands of barrows. Hugely influential guy. You've got, I've spoken about Margaret Gelling. She, because everything's about place names for her, it was therefore about the early English, the anglo-saxons, and she was in opposition, not in, you know, not tooth and claw, but in many ways in opposition to people like Stenton. Stenton wrote the history of Anglo-Saxon England, really important guy, but he was very conservative, and she saw the landscape in terms of a heroic people, common people, developing this land into something that would help them thrive. And where there were lords, they were first among equals. They were one step away from commoners. And she talks about that. She was a bit left-wing too. So these guys were really, really important in telling us about the past. And by me saying I have a Marxist view on the past, but not in the present or future. Well, I do have a Marxist view of the present, but I have I do not follow the Marxist program for the future. I think it's horrible. But the analysis is correct. This is what is important. It underlies everything. It's power and money, power and property, and I think it's a beneficial way of looking at things. And when you look at some of the alternatives to that perspective, which is essentially, I'm not going to use their words for it because nobody will understand it, but it's basically postmodernism. That is all. There is no such thing as truth, only subjectivity. Again, a horrible idea, and which ensures that people can't live good lives. If there is no truth, nobody can live a good life. And so that's my position, and that's why I take that position. So I still have respect for people like OGS Crawford. Some of the landmarks in this forest of Savernake I couldn't have found without Crawford. He did, and he is huge, far more important than me. I'm just a tiny amateur. But he does what I do. He should go into the landscape and have a look. He went into estate offices and said, "Can I have a look at your field maps?" And it's by doing that he found Bitton Pond, which we can now put back on the map when it had disappeared. So it's getting out there, talking to farmers, walking the fields. It's really important. But anyway, that's why this piece is got a thumbnail that says communists on it. I think this is all that's left of the barrows. Is they've been there's a slight rise, but it's been ploughed a lot. But we can see its position though. It is right on the top of the ridge, which is nice. theoretically looking down both valleys on left and right. So at least we can get that information from here. But they've left it fallow. I presume they're getting some sort of heritage money to do that. The rest is a wheat or barley field. The Barrow Cemetery carries on under the woodland, under the canopy, so it's better preserved here. There's still mounds, which is a good thing, and it doesn't mean that in prehistoric times it was the same situation of a wood and a field, but it's nice to be able to see them. They are quite handsomely sized, and in this private property there's a sign saying stay on the path, so it is my duty to cooperate, but it is irritating when they use the excuse of wildlife, wildflowers, as if we're divorced from the natural world. One of the reasons I wanted to come down here was to have a look at this valley, whether or not there is a stream. Now, of course, we've got a canal today. If the canal wasn't here, would there have been a stream, a river, whatever? I couldn't find any old maps that are older than when the canal was dug. So I don't know. I was hoping by coming down here I'd get an impression. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, so the River Dun doesn't come this far. So I'm at Burbage. And the reason I'm asking is because there's a tiny amount of controversy about its meaning. Burbage is Bara Batch. Now that can be either back or beck in the north and batch down south, meaning a stream. So back is like a ridge, it's a hog's back, and there is a hog's back about 3 miles that way. But I wanted to know, most people linguistically think that Burbage is the borough with the beck, and I don't think it is. I was hoping to get some sort of impression though. If there was any indication there was a stream down here before there was a canal, I could rule my own thoughts out. So on that damp squib, I'll bid you adieu. If you enjoyed this video, please watch this one next, but hopefully I'll see you on the next one anyway. Ta-ra for now.